Look who finally realized why nothing ever felt the same after you. You beautiful, rare, irreplaceable force of nature. Welcome to the throne you never left. Because here's the truth they've been hiding from you. The truth that's been burning holes in their conscience for months, maybe years. They're not comparing you to anyone. They're comparing everyone to you. And everyone, every single person who came after, every replacement they tried to install, every distraction they tried to worship, every connection they tried to force, they all failed the test. The test you didn't even know you set, the standard you didn't even know you raised, the bar you didn't even know you became. Let's get surgical here. Let's cut through the noise, the lies, the performance they've been putting on for the world. You think they moved on. You think they found better. You think they're living their best life without you. That's the story they're selling. That's the script they rehearsed. That's the mask they wear when the sun is shining and the cameras are rolling. But when the lights go out, when the audience leaves, when they're alone with their thoughts and their truth, your name is the only one echoing in the silence. Your face is the only one they see behind their eyelids. Your voice is the only one that still sounds like home. Because everyone else, no matter how beautiful, no matter how perfect on paper, no matter how desperately they tried to fit, they were all placeholders, temporary, disposable, forgettable. You want to know the cruelest irony? They thought replacing you would be easy. They thought someone new would erase the memory, fill the void, silence the ache. They thought they could just swap you out, like changing a light bulb, like upgrading a phone, like you were some kind of interchangeable part in their life's machinery. So, they tried. Oh, they tried so hard. They swiped. They flirted. They forced chemistry that wasn't there. They laughed too loud at jokes that weren't funny. They pretended to care about conversations that bored them to tears. They played the part. They said the right things. They posted the right pictures. They built the illusion. But every single time, every single interaction, every single moment, it all led back to you because you weren't a placeholder. You were the blueprint, the original, the one they measured everyone against without even realizing it. Here's what they won't admit, what they can't admit, what would shatter the carefully constructed narrative they've been feeding themselves and everyone around them. Every person they meet now gets auditioned, not consciously, not intentionally, but it happens subconsciously, ruthlessly, inevitably. Do they laugh like you? No. Do they challenge them like you? No. Do they understand them like you? Not even close. Do they make them feel alive, seen, understood, known? Not a chance. So they keep searching. They keep trying. They keep pretending that the next one will be the one. But deep down in the quiet moments they won't talk about in the 3 a.m. thoughts they can't escape, they know the truth. They're not looking for someone new. They're looking for you and everyone else. And they're failing every single time. You became the standard by which all others are measured. Not because you tried to be, not because you demanded to be, but because of who you were when you were present, authentic, unpredictable, unrepeatable. You didn't play games. You didn't wear masks. You didn't perform. You just existed fully, honestly, intensely. And that intensity, that realness, that raw, unfiltered presence, it branded itself onto their soul. It rewired their brain. It reset their expectations. So now everyone else feels like a downgrade. Everyone else feels like a compromise. Everyone else feels like settling because you weren't just a person in their life. You were the moment they realized what connection could actually feel like, what love could actually taste like, what home could actually sound like. And once you've tasted the real thing, everything else is just empty calories. Let's talk about the performance they're putting on right now. The new relationship, the new situation, the new person they're parading around like a trophy. Look how happy they are. Look how perfect it all looks. Look how much better off they seem. But you and I both know what's really happening behind that performance. We know what's really being said in the silence between the smiles. We know what's really felt when they're alone with their thoughts. Because if they were truly happy, truly moved on, truly over you, they wouldn't need to prove it. They wouldn't need to broadcast it. They wouldn't need to perform it for an audience. Happy people don't perform happiness. They just live it quietly, privately without needing validation. But them, they need the world to see. They need the likes, the comments, the confirmation. They need everyone to believe the lie. Because if everyone believes it, maybe, just maybe, they can start believing it too. But here's the problem with placeholders. Here's the fatal flaw in their strategy. Placeholders don't know they're placeholders. These people, these new faces, these temporary solutions, they think they're the real deal. They think they won the position. They think they're chosen, valued, wanted for who they are, but they're not. They're wanted for who they're not. They're wanted because they're not you. Because they're easier. Because they're safer. Because they don't challenge. Because they don't demand growth. Because they don't push boundaries. Because they don't force honesty. They're the path of least resistance. The comfortable lie, the numbing agent, the distraction. And one day, when the distraction stops working, when the numbness wears off, when the lie gets too heavy to carry, they'll be discarded, too. Just like that. No ceremony, no explanation, just gone. You know what's beautiful about all this? You know what's almost poetic? You didn't have to do anything to maintain your position. You didn't have to fight for it. You didn't have to compete for it. You didn't have to prove your worth or defend your value. You just existed. And your existence, your memory, your ghost, it's doing all the work for you. It's haunting them. It's sabotaging their present. It's poisoning their future. Not because you're trying to, not because you're manipulating from a distance, but because they can't let go of what you represented. They can't release the version of themselves they were when they were with you. They can't forget the feeling of being truly seen, truly known, truly understood. So, they're stuck, trapped between a past they can't return to, and a future that feels empty by comparison. Here's what they tell themselves at night when the mask comes off and the truth creeps in. I made a mistake. I let the wrong one go. I ruined the best thing I ever had. I thought I could do better, but better doesn't exist. I thought I wanted freedom, but freedom without them feels like prison. I thought I needed space, but space without them feels like exile. These thoughts, these confessions, these silent screams, they're on repeat. A broken record they can't stop playing. A loop they can't escape. And every new person they bring into their life, every new attempt at moving forward, every new relationship they try to build, it all just amplifies the same truth. You were it. You are it. And nothing else compares. Let me paint you a picture. Let me show you what's really happening in their world right now. They're with someone new. They're laughing at dinner. They're holding hands. They're doing all the things couples do. But in the middle of a conversation, mid-sentence, mid-laugh, their mind drifts back to you, back to a memory, back to something you said, something you did, some moment that felt more real than this entire evening. And they catch themselves. They snap back to reality. They force a smile. They nod at whatever the placeholder just said. But it's too late. The comparison already happened. The measurement already occurred. The verdict already came in. Not good enough. Not even close. And this happens daily, hourly, constantly. A never-ending cycle of comparing, measuring, failing. You became the one they think about when they're alone. The one they dream about when they sleep. The one they search for in crowds. The one whose name almost slips out during intimate moments with someone else. You're the benchmark, the gold standard, the impossible-to-reach bar. And the cruelest part, you didn't even try to be. You were just yourself, flawed, human, imperfect. But your flaws were real. Your humanity was raw. Your imperfections were honest. And honesty, real, unfiltered honesty. It's rarer than perfection. It's more valuable than performance. It's more memorable than any rehearsed version of love they're experiencing now. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Let's talk about why this happened. Why you specifically? Why not someone else? Why you became the one they can't forget, can't replace, can't stop measuring everyone against. It's not because you were perfect. It's not because you never made mistakes. It's not because you were some flawless ideal. No, it's because you were unapologetically you. You showed up fully. You loved deeply. You challenged constantly. You didn't settle for surface-level connection. You demanded depth. You required honesty. You pushed for growth. You weren't content with the mask. You wanted the truth. And when someone experiences that level of authenticity, that level of depth, that level of real connection, they can never unsee it. They can never unfeel it. They can never go back to shallow. To pretend to surface level, you ruin them for everyone else. Not out of cruelty, but out of truth. Here's what they won't tell their new person. Here's what they hide when they're building something new. You're great, but you're not them. You make me smile, but you don't make me feel alive. You're here, but I'm still there. You're trying, but they didn't have to. You're perfect on paper, but they were perfect in practice. You check all the boxes, but they made me forget boxes existed. These are the thoughts they bury, the truths they suppress, the confessions they'll never make out loud. Because admitting it would mean admitting they made the biggest mistake of their life. Admitting they let go of something irreplaceable, admitting they traded gold for copper and called it an upgrade. And the new person, the placeholder, they feel it. Maybe not consciously, maybe not immediately, but eventually, inevitably, they feel the distance. They sense the comparison. They notice the faraway look. They catch the hesitation. They hear your name mentioned just a little too carefully. They see the old photos that haven't been deleted. They notice the memories that are referenced just a little too fondly. And slowly, painfully, they realize the truth. They're not the first choice. They're not the real thing. They're the consolation prize, the understudy, the substitute, the one who's here because you're not. And that realization, that slow dawning awareness, it poisons everything because no one wants to be loved as a replacement. No one wants to be chosen by default. No one wants to be the best of what's available rather than the one who's actually wanted. But here's where it gets even more twisted. Here's where the psychology gets dark. They start to resent you. Not because of anything you did. Not because of anything you're doing, but because your memory is destroying their present. Your ghost is sabotaging their future. Your standard is making everyone else feel inadequate. So they blame you. They rewrite history. They convince themselves you weren't that great. They highlight your flaws. They magnify your mistakes. They construct a narrative where letting you go was the right choice, the smart choice, the necessary choice. Because if you were actually as amazing as their heart keeps telling them, then they're the villain of their own story. They're the fool who lost the treasure. They're the architect of their own misery. And that's too painful to accept. So they lie to themselves, to others, to anyone who will listen. You know what the funniest part is? The most ironic twist. All their efforts to move on, all their attempts to replace you, all their new relationships and fresh starts, they're actually keeping you more present than if they just acknowledged the truth. Because every comparison is a reminder. Every measurement is a memorial. Every "they're not like my ex" is actually "they're not like you." They've built a shrine to you disguised as moving on. They've created a monument to what you were disguised as what they've found. Every placeholder is proof that you can't be replaced. Every new person is evidence that you were one of one, original, unrepeatable, irreplaceable. Let's go deeper. Let's talk about what happens when they're intimate with someone new. When they're supposed to be present, connected, vulnerable, but they're not. Not really. Because in those moments when guards are down and truth slips through, it's your name on the tip of their tongue. It's your face they almost see. It's the memory of what intimacy felt like with you that makes everything now feel like a performance, like going through motions, like checking boxes on a list of things people in relationships are supposed to do. But the magic, the electricity, the raw, real, vulnerable connection, it's not there. It can't be there because you took it with you when you left, or when they pushed you away, or when whatever happened happened. And now they're living in the aftermath. The hollow echo of what connection used to feel like. Here's what they search for at 2 a.m. when they can't sleep and the truth is too loud to ignore. Your social media, your name, any trace of you. Not because they want to reach out. Not because they're ready to admit they were wrong, but because they need to know you're not doing better without them. They need to see you're struggling, too. They need confirmation that you miss them as much as they miss you. Because if you're thriving, if you're glowing, if you're clearly better off, it destroys the narrative. It shatters the lie. It proves that you were the one who escaped. You were the one who dodged the bullet. You were the one who got out before the ship sank. And they're the one left drowning, pretending it's swimming. But here's what they find instead. Here's what makes it worse. You're not drowning. You're not broken. You're not desperately searching for them in everyone else. You're just existing, living, growing, moving forward. Not because you've replaced them, not because you found someone better, but because you're not comparing. You're not measuring. You're not using every new person as a metric against an old standard. You're free. Actually free. Not performing freedom. Not pretending to be over it, but genuinely, authentically move forward. And that freedom, that genuine peace, it makes them realize something devastating. You were never the one holding on. They were. You were never the one who couldn't let go. They were. You were never the one stuck in the past. They were. You moved on. They're still living in the museum of what was. Now, let's talk about the moment of reckoning. The moment when everything they've been denying crashes down on them. It happens differently for everyone. For some, it's a random Tuesday afternoon when they're doing something mundane, and suddenly, without warning, the weight of losing you becomes unbearable. For others, it's seeing you happy without them. For others, it's the 10th failed relationship that makes them realize the common denominator isn't bad luck. It's that they're searching for you and people who will never be you. For others, it's waking up next to someone new and feeling lonelier than when they sleep alone. But however it happens, whenever it happens, the realization is the same. They didn't upgrade. They downgraded. They didn't escape. They abandoned. They didn't find better. They lost best. And here's what makes this realization so brutal. By the time they figure it out, by the time they're ready to admit it, by the time they're willing to confess, it's too late. You're not the same person anymore. You evolved. You healed. You grew beyond the version of you they remember. You're not sitting around waiting for their apology. You're not keeping the door open for their return. You're not maintaining a shrine to what was. You moved on, not to someone else necessarily, but to a better version of yourself. A version that doesn't need their validation. A version that doesn't measure your worth by their attention. A version that knows your value isn't determined by whether they recognize it or not. You became whole without them. And that's the most devastating truth they'll ever face. Let me tell you what's happening in their friend group right now. The conversations they're having, the confessions they're making. I messed up. I let the wrong one go. I thought the grass was greener. I thought I could do better. I took them for granted. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. Their friends nod sympathetically. They offer comfort. They say the right things. You'll find someone else. It wasn't meant to be. Everything happens for a reason. But their friends know. They see through the performance. They notice the forced smiles. They catch the faraway looks. They hear your name mentioned just a little too often. They see the comparisons. And privately among themselves, they have different conversations. They're never going to get over this. They ruined the best thing they ever had. Everyone since has been a downgrade. They compare everyone to their ex. Your ghost haunts their friend group, too. Here's what their new person doesn't understand. Here's what they can't comprehend. Why the commitment feels half-hearted. Why the vulnerability feels guarded. Why certain topics are off limits. Why certain dates are melancholic. Why certain songs get skipped. Why certain places get avoided. Why there's always this sense that part of them is somewhere else with someone else. In a memory they can't access. In a past they can't compete with. The new person tries harder. Loves louder, gives more, but it's never enough. Not because they're inadequate, but because they're being measured against something they can't see, can't understand, can't compete with. They're fighting a ghost. And you can't win against a ghost. Because ghosts don't have flaws anymore. Ghosts don't make mistakes. Ghosts exist in the perfect amber of memory, frozen, idealized, untouchable. You know what's beautiful about your position right now. You know what's powerful about where you stand. You're not in the arena anymore. You're not competing. You're not fighting for a position. You're not proving your worth. You already won. Not because you got them back. Not because they came crawling with apologies, but because you became the standard, the benchmark, the one, and that position, that throne. It's yours forever. They can date 100 people. They can try 1,000 replacements. They can search for a lifetime. But everyone will be measured against you. Everyone will be found wanting. Everyone will be reminded that they're not you. And you didn't have to do anything to maintain that position. You just had to be unforgettable. And you were. You are. You always will be. Let's address something crucial. Something that might be swirling in your mind right now. Should I reach out? Should I give them another chance? Should I let them back in? And here's my answer. Delivered with the love of someone who sees your worth even when you question it. Oh, look at that. Look at them melting down in real time. Notifications exploding, voices cracking, emotions hemorrhaging all over their timelines while you're sitting there calm, collected blueprints spread across your desk, mapping out empires they don't even know exist yet. They're having full-blown existential crises and you're literally scheduling your next conquest like it's a Tuesday morning coffee run. Beautiful, isn't it? The way their chaos has become your background noise. The way their screams have become elevator music to your ascension. They wanted your attention so badly, begged for it, manufactured crisis after crisis just to get you to look their way. But you stopped watching their circus the moment you realized you were building stadiums they could never fill. Let's get surgical with this truth because you need to hear it said out loud with no sugar, no mercy, just facts while they're out there performing emotional gymnastics, posting cryptic quotes about betrayal, vague booking about loyalty, having literal meltdowns and group chats about who said what to who. You're 3 moves ahead. Building in silence, executing in darkness, winning in dimensions they don't even know exist. They're screaming into voids, hoping you'll echo back, but you've already soundproofed your kingdom. They're throwing tantrums on stages you've abandoned, putting on shows for audiences that don't include you anymore. And that drives them absolutely insane because their entire strategy was built on one assumption that you'd care, that you'd react, that you'd engage. But you didn't. You vanished into focus. You disappeared into discipline. You ghost them with purpose. Here's what they don't understand about people like you. Your silence isn't weakness, it's warfare. Your absence isn't retreat, it's strategy. While they're burning energy on drama, you're investing it in domination. They think you're ignoring them, but you're not ignoring anything. You're just prioritizing everything. They'll never be important enough to interrupt. They wanted to be your distraction, your downfall, your breaking point. But instead, they became your motivation, your fuel, the exact reason you decided to build something so magnificent that their noise would sound like whispers in a hurricane. Every second they spent trying to get your attention was a second you spent getting closer to unreachable. Every message they sent that you didn't answer was another brick in the fortress they'll never breach. Every time they said your name hoping you'd defend yourself. You were out there making moves that would make your name legendary. You know what's driving them to the edge right now? Like literally pushing them toward madness. It's not that you're winning. People can handle other people winning if they're loud about it, flashy, braggy, posting every victory like it needs a press release. No. What's destroying them is that you're winning quietly, silently, invisibly. They can't see your scoreboard, can't track your progress, can't measure your growth, and that absence of information is killing them slowly, methodically, like poison in slow motion. They're used to people who announce every move, broadcast every plan, celebrate every tiny win like it's the Super Bowl. But you move like a shadow government, operating in classified silence, executing missions they don't discover until the victory parade is already over. They keep waiting for you to post about your success, to brag about your progress, to give them something, anything they can criticize, diminish, or compete with, but you give them nothing. Just silence, just results they can't deny but can't comprehend. And let's talk about why their meltdowns are so specifically violent right now, so particularly unhinged. It's because they finally realized something that's been creeping up on them like dread in the dark. They realized you were never playing their game. All this time, while they were fighting for territory on their battlefield, you were building your own continent. While they were arguing about who's king of the hill, you were purchasing mountains. They thought you were competition, a rival, someone in their league just doing better. But no, you were never in their league. You were never even playing their sport. You were in a completely different dimension of ambition. And the moment that truth crystallized in their minds, that's when the meltdown started. Because now they understand you didn't beat them. You transcended them. You didn't win their game. You made their game irrelevant. Think about it. Really sit with this for a second. While they were crafting the perfect comeback, you were crafting the perfect comeback plan for the next 5 years. While they were arguing in comments sections, you were building revenue streams. While they were defending their reputation to people who don't matter, you were building a legacy that won't need defending. While they were emotionally investing in beef, you were financially investing in empires, different mindsets, different timelines, different destinies. They're operating on drama time where everything is urgent, everything is a crisis, everything needs immediate response. But you're operating on empire time, where patience is power, silence is strength, and the only urgency is the urgency to build something they'll study in business schools while you're retired on islands they can't pronounce. Here's the part that's really twisting the knife in their sanity. They can see you thriving, but they can't see how. They can see the results, but can't reverse engineer the process. They can see you ascending, but can't find the staircase. It's like watching someone fly when you don't believe in airplanes. Their entire worldview is collapsing because you're violating every rule they thought was universal. You're supposed to respond when provoked. You're supposed to defend when attacked. You're supposed to engage when challenged. You're supposed to care when they perform. But you don't. You just don't. And every day you don't respond is another day their reality cracks a little more. Every week you stay silent is another week they question everything they thought they knew about power, about attention, about control. Let me paint you a picture of what's happening in their world right now behind the scenes in the group chats you're not in, the conversations you're not part of. They're obsessed fully, completely unhealthily obsessed with you. They talk about you more than they talk about their own goals. They check your profiles more than they check their own analytics. They wonder about your next move more than they plan their own. You have become the main character in their mental movie. And they hate it. They absolutely despise it. But they can't stop. They can't look away because somewhere deep in their psychology, they know that you represent something they're not. Disciplined, focused, unbothered, ascending, and that knowledge is eating them alive from the inside out like termites in the foundation of their ego. The meltdowns you're witnessing, the public breakdowns, the emotional explosions, those aren't random. Those are the visible symptoms of an internal collapse. They built their entire sense of power on one foundation. The ability to get reactions, to provoke responses, to control narratives through emotional manipulation. But you pulled the rug out from under that entire structure by simply not participating. You became unreachable not because you blocked them everywhere, but because you blocked them mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You performed the ultimate power move. You made them irrelevant without saying a single word. You didn't defeat them in combat. You removed them from combat by fighting wars they didn't even know existed. And now they're shadow boxing, throwing punches at ghosts, screaming at echoes, having full conversations with versions of you that don't exist anymore. You want to know what world domination actually looks like in real life? Not in movies, not in fantasy, but in the actual trenches of ambition. It looks exactly like what you're doing right now. It looks like somebody building systems while others build arguments. It looks like somebody stacking skills while others stack grudges. It looks like somebody investing in assets while others invest in drama. It looks like somebody who understands that attention is currency. And they've decided to be a miser with it. Hoarding every second, every ounce of focus, every drop of mental energy. For projects that compound. For moves that multiply. For plans that don't just win once, but keep winning forever. That's domination. Not loud, not flashy, but inevitable. Unstoppable, mathematically certain. And here's where it gets absolutely poetic. Like genuinely beautiful in a dark karmic way. The same energy they're wasting trying to get your attention, trying to provoke you, trying to pull you back into their chaos, that's the exact energy you're using to build distance between your level and theirs. Every hour they spend obsessing over you is an hour you spend obsessing over excellence. Every day they spend trying to decode your silence is a day you spend encoding your future. They're spending their resources trying to understand you, while you're spending your resources trying to transcend understanding. It's not even a fair fight anymore. It's not even a fight. It's a mismatch of dimensions. They're playing checkers with their emotions and you're playing chess with your entire existence. Let me tell you what they're really screaming for when they're screaming for your attention. They're not screaming for you to acknowledge them. They're screaming for you to validate their reality. Because in their reality, noise equals importance. Drama equals relevance. Reaction equals power. And if you don't react, if you don't engage, if you don't give them the satisfaction of knowing they affected you, then their entire reality cracks. They need you to play by their rules. Because if you don't, then maybe the rules are fake. Maybe the game is rigged. Maybe everything they've built their identity on is just performance. And that possibility that maybe they've been performing in an empty theater this whole time, that's what's causing the meltdowns. That's what's breaking them, not your success, your indifference. The funniest part, and I mean genuinely hilarious in a cosmic justice kind of way, is that they're giving you exactly what you need to dominate even harder. Every meltdown they have publicly is another example of what you're not. Every emotional explosion is another demonstration of the control you possess that they lack. Every time they lose their composure, trying to get your attention, they're advertising to the world why you're the one people should be watching, learning from, aspiring toward. They're basically running a free marketing campaign for your character, your discipline, your focus. They're out here telling everyone, look how unbothered they are. Look how they won't engage. Look how they just keep building and they think that's an insult. But it's the highest compliment a competitor can give. It's basically them saying, I can't break this person and it's destroying me. Now, let's get into the planning aspect, the world domination blueprint, because that's what actually separates you from them on a fundamental level. They react, you plan, they respond, you prepare. They move based on emotion. You move based on strategy. While they're having emergency meetings about what you posted last Tuesday, you're having strategy sessions about where you'll be next Tuesday, 5 years from now. Your calendar isn't filled with drama appointments. It's filled with destiny appointments, meetings that matter, calls that create value, work sessions that build empires. Every hour is accounted for. Every day has a purpose. Every week moves you closer to objectives they can't even pronounce. That's the difference. That's the gap. That's why they're melting down and you're leveling up. You know what world domination actually requires that most people don't have? It's not talent. It's not even intelligence, though those help. It's the ability to be emotionally boring, to be dramatically uninteresting, to be so focused on your mission that other people's chaos just slides off you like water off a submarine. You have to be the kind of person who can watch the world burn and ask, how does this affect my 5-year plan? You have to be able to see people self-destructing and think, noted, don't do that, instead of, let me get involved. You have to have the psychological infrastructure to witness chaos and extract lessons instead of getting sucked into participation. And that's rare. That's special. That's what separates the people who talk about domination from the people who actually achieve it. Let's talk about the next power move since that's what you're actually focused on while they're focused on you. The next power move isn't louder. It's quieter. It's not more visible. It's more valuable. It's not designed to impress them. It's designed to make them irrelevant to the game entirely. You're not planning to beat them. You're planning to operate in spaces where competition with them is literally impossible because they don't have the skills, the vision, the discipline, or the patience to even enter. You're not trying to be the best in your lane. You're building new highways they don't have maps to. That's the power move. Not domination through confrontation, but domination through transcendence. Not winning their game better, but creating games they can't play. And while they're over there dissecting your every move like conspiracy theorists with corkboards and red string, trying to figure out your strategy, your motivation, your next play, you're not even thinking about them. You're thinking about markets they've never heard of, opportunities they can't conceive of, partnerships they're not qualified for, investments they don't understand. You're operating in a completely different economic reality, a different social stratum, a different intellectual atmosphere. They're trying to compete with you using tools that are 2 generations old while you're using technology they don't know exists. It's not even close. It's not even competitive. It's just sad for them and advantageous for you. Here's what the planning phase of world domination actually looks like, since most people romanticize it wrong. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's spreadsheets at midnight. It's saying no to 99 opportunities so you can say yes to one that matters. It's reading when everyone else is partying. It's building when everyone else is sleeping. It's sacrificing the temporary dopamine hit of drama for the permanent satisfaction of achievement. It's choosing boring today for legendary tomorrow. It's understanding that empire building is inherently undramatic because drama is a resource leak and empires are built on resource optimization. Every second you spend on something that doesn't compound is a second stolen from your future self. And you understand that they don't. The reason they can't comprehend your silence, your focus, your refusal to engage is because they're addicted to the immediate. Immediate reactions, immediate validation, immediate gratification. They need to feel something right now, see results right now, get acknowledged right now. But you've developed a taste for the delayed gratification, delayed recognition, delayed reward. You plant trees you won't sit under for decades. You build foundations that won't show above ground for years. You invest in becoming someone they'll eventually study in case studies about transformation, discipline, and strategic patience. You're playing the long game in a world full of people who can't see past the next quarter, the next month, the next week. Let me tell you what they see when they look at you now. Because perception is reality in warfare, and you're at war whether you acknowledge it or not. They see someone untouchable. Not because you're perfect, but because you're unreachable. They see someone who used to be accessible, relatable, human, and now you're something else, something evolved, something that doesn't operate on their frequency anymore. They see someone who took every lesson from every betrayal, every attack, every attempt to break them. And instead of breaking, you built armor. Not defensive armor, offensive armor. The kind that doesn't just protect you from their attacks, but makes their attacks irrelevant because you're operating at altitudes where their weapons can't reach. They see someone who left them behind without a goodbye, without an explanation, without closure. And that absence of closure is haunting them. You want to know why your power moves hit different? Why your silence speaks louder than their screaming? Why your progress terrifies them more than any threat ever could? It's because you're proving that everything they believe about success is wrong. They believe you need to be loud to be heard. You're proving silence is louder. They believe you need to engage to win. You're proving absence is dominance. They believe you need to defend your reputation. You're proving that results defend themselves. They believe you need allies, networks, cosigns. You're proving that solo missions executed perfectly are more powerful than armies executing poorly. Everything about your existence right now is a reputation of their entire worldview. And people don't handle paradigm shifts well. They handle them with meltdowns, denial, and obsession. The planning you're doing right now, the strategies you're developing, the moves you're preparing, they're not designed for the audience that's screaming for your attention. They're designed for the audience that doesn't know you exist yet. The people who will discover you 5 years from now and wonder how the hell you built all this. The people who will trace your journey backward and study the gap between when they were screaming and when you were building. That's your real audience. That's who you're performing for. Not the critics, not the haters, not the obsessed, but the future students of your success, the people who will want to replicate what you did. And what did you do? You ignored the noise and optimized the signal. You blocked out the static and focused on the frequency of greatness. Here's a truth that's going to sound harsh, but needs to be said. Their meltdowns are a compliment you didn't ask for, but probably earned. People don't have emotional breakdowns over people they don't consider threats. They don't obsess over people they don't secretly admire. They don't lose sleep over people they don't desperately wish they could be. Every tear they cry in frustration, every post they make in anger, every conversation they have about you behind your back, it's all just evidence that you've gotten inside their head and set up permanent residence. You're not paying rent in their mind. You own the entire property. And the more they try to evict you, the more space you take up. It's psychological warfare, and you're winning without even showing up to the battlefield. Now, let's talk about what world domination actually means in your context, in your life, with your specific gifts and goals. Because domination is personal. It's not about ruling everyone. It's about ruling your domain so completely that everyone in your domain has no choice but to respect the kingdom you built. It's about mastering your craft so thoroughly that competitors become students. Oh, look at that. Look at the shock on their faces. Look at the absolute disbelief dripping from their mouths like venom they can't swallow fast enough. They're stunned, frozen, completely blindsided by the fact that you got smart. No, no, no. Let's rewrite that pathetic little narrative they're clinging to right now. You didn't get smart. You didn't suddenly develop intelligence overnight like some kind of miracle they witnessed. You were always intelligent, always capable, always 10 steps ahead of the game they thought they were running. What happened? What really shook their fragile little world to its core is that you stopped pretending. You stopped dumbing yourself down. You stopped shrinking your mind, your words, your brilliance to fit into the tiny, uncomfortable box they built for you. You stopped playing the fool for their comfort. And now they're absolutely losing their minds because the person they thought they had figured out, the person they underestimated, the person they dismissed as safe and predictable and controllable, just revealed that they've been playing chess while everyone else was still learning checkers. Let's get something brutally clear right from the start. These people, these so-called friends, colleagues, family members, whoever they are in your life, they needed you dumb. They needed you confused. They needed you second-guessing yourself, questioning your intelligence, doubting your instincts, running everything by them for validation. Why? Because your intelligence was a threat. Your clarity was dangerous. Your ability to see through their manipulations, their half-truths, their carefully constructed illusions that terrified them. So they conditioned you slowly, subtly, strategically. They laughed at your ideas just a little too hard. They interrupted you just a little too often. They explained things you already understood as if you were a child. They made you feel like your thoughts needed translation, like your perspective needed correction, like your intelligence needed supervision. And you beautiful, adaptable creature. You learned to play small. You learned to hesitate before speaking. You learned to dumb down your vocabulary, simplify your concepts, shrink your brilliance into bite-sized pieces they could digest without choking on their own inadequacy. But something shifted, didn't it? Something inside you snapped, woke up, refused to stay quiet anymore. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was just the weight of pretending finally becoming heavier than the fear of their reaction. Whatever it was, you stopped performing. You stopped translating your intelligence into their limited language. You stopped waiting for permission to be brilliant. You stopped apologizing for knowing things, for being right, for seeing patterns they couldn't see, for connecting dots they didn't even know existed. You stopped dumbing down. And the moment you did, the moment you let your real intelligence shine without apology, without filtration, without dumbing it down for their fragile egos, they panicked because suddenly the script flipped. Suddenly they weren't the smart ones guiding you. Suddenly, they were exposed as average, as intellectually lazy, as people who'd been coasting on your silence and using your dimmed light to make themselves look brighter. And now they're scrambling. Oh, they're scrambling hard. They're trying to figure out when you changed. They're looking for the moment, the event, the trigger that made you suddenly so smart. But there was no sudden. There was no transformation. There was only revelation. The revelation that you were done pretending, done protecting their egos at the expense of your own expansion, done playing dumb so they could play legend. They're shocked because they genuinely believed the character you played. They genuinely thought the dumbed down version was the real you. They invested in that lie. They built their entire perception of you, their entire relationship dynamic with you on the foundation that you were less intelligent, less aware, less capable than them. And now that foundation is crumbling and they're falling. And they're looking for someone to blame. And of course, they're blaming you for changing, for acting different, for thinking you're better than everyone now. Because the alternative, the truth, that they never really knew you, that they underestimated you, that they were wrong about you from the beginning, that's too painful for their egos to process. So, let them be shocked. Let them be confused. Let them spiral trying to make sense of this new you that isn't new at all. Because while they're busy rewriting history, trying to pinpoint when you got smart, you're already miles ahead. Operating on a frequency they can't even tune into, seeing realities they can't comprehend, building a life they can't access. You didn't get smart. You stopped playing dumb. And that's the difference that's about to change absolutely everything in your life. Because the energy you were wasting on pretending, that's yours now. The mental space you were using to shrink yourself, that's reclaimed. The power you were suppressing to make them comfortable, that's activated. And there's no going back. There's no unseeing what you've seen. There's no unlearning what you've remembered about yourself. You're done playing small and they're going to have to deal with it. Let's talk about the mask. That carefully crafted, meticulously maintained mask of acceptable stupidity you wore for years and yes, years. Because this wasn't a phase. This wasn't a bad week or a rough month. This was a sustained performance, a long-term role you played so convincingly that you almost forgot you were acting. You played confused when you understood perfectly. You asked questions you already knew the answers to. You let them explain concepts you'd mastered long before they discovered them. You nodded along to their mediocre insights as if they were profound revelations. You pretended their basic observations were brilliant. You acted like their surface-level thinking was deep. You laughed at jokes that weren't funny. You agreed with opinions you knew were wrong. You simplified your language, dumbed down your ideas, hid your vocabulary, suppressed your wit, contained your analysis, all so they could feel smart, all so they could feel superior. All so they could feel safe. And the mask fit so well, didn't it? You wore it so naturally that people forgot it was a mask at all. They thought that was your face. They thought that was who you were. Limited, simple, easy to understand, easy to predict, easy to control. They built entire strategies around your perceived limitations. They made plans assuming you wouldn't notice. They had conversations assuming you wouldn't understand. They made decisions assuming you wouldn't question. They underestimated you so thoroughly, so completely that they stopped hiding their true selves around you. They stopped being careful. They stopped watching their words. They stopped concealing their intentions because they genuinely believed you were too dumb to see through them, too simple to recognize manipulation, too naive to spot deception, too limited to connect the dots. And that was their fatal mistake. Because while they were busy underestimating you, you were busy learning everything about them. Their patterns, their weaknesses, their fears, their strategies, their lies. You see, they thought your silence meant ignorance. They thought your questions meant confusion. They thought your patience meant stupidity. But you were never confused. You were collecting data. You were never ignorant. You were observing patterns. You were never stupid. You were playing the long game, gathering information, understanding dynamics, mapping relationships, identifying who was real and who was performing, who was loyal and who was waiting for an opportunity to betray. You let them think they were smarter. You let them think they were in control. You let them think they were teaching you, guiding you, protecting you from your own supposed limitations. And all the while, you were building an empire of understanding they couldn't see. You were becoming fluent in their language while they never bothered to learn yours. You were studying their playbook while they assumed you couldn't read. You were 10 moves ahead while they thought you were struggling to keep up with the current move. But wearing that mask, that came at a cost, didn't it? It wasn't free. It wasn't easy. It required energy. Constant energy to suppress your real thoughts, to bite your tongue, to swallow your corrections, to watch them make mistakes you could prevent but weren't allowed to address. Because addressing them would reveal that you knew better. It required discipline to play dumb consistently, to never slip up, to never accidentally reveal your true intelligence, to maintain the character even when it exhausted you, even when it insulted you, even when it suffocated you. It required sacrifice. The sacrifice of your authentic self, the sacrifice of genuine connection, the sacrifice of being truly known. Because how can anyone really know you when they're interacting with a performance? How can anyone truly love you when they're in love with a dumbed-down version you created for their comfort? They don't know you. They know the mask. And that loneliness, That deep aching loneliness of being surrounded by people who think they know you but have no idea who you really are, that's the price you paid. And for what? For their comfort, for their egos, for their sense of superiority, for peace, for approval, for acceptance, for belonging, for the illusion of connection. For the fear, the deep-rooted fear that if you showed up as your full intelligent self, they would reject you, abandon you, punish you, isolate you, make your life harder than it already was. So you dimmed your light. You shrunk your mind. You played the role. You wore the mask. Until one day you couldn't anymore. Until one day the mask became heavier than the fear. Until one day you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize yourself. And you realized that protecting their comfort was destroying your soul. And that's when everything changed. That's when you took the mask off. That's when you stopped playing dumb. That's when they got shocked because they never expected you to stop performing. They never prepared for the possibility that you would choose yourself over their comfort. They never imagined you would reveal your real intelligence. And now they're reeling. And you're finally breathing. Here's what they don't want you to understand. Your intelligence was never the problem. Your intelligence was never lacking. Your intelligence was never something that needed to develop, to grow, to emerge over time. It was always there, sharp, precise, penetrating, dangerous. And they knew it. They felt it. They saw glimpses of it, even through the mask you wore. And it terrified them. So they did what threatened people always do. They gaslit you. They made you doubt yourself. They made you question your own mind. They planted seeds of insecurity so deep that you started believing you were the dumb one, the confused one, the one who needed their guidance, their explanations, their corrections, their constant supervision over your thoughts. Remember when you shared an idea and they dismissed it immediately only to present that exact same idea weeks later as their own brilliant insight? Remember when you pointed out a problem and they called you paranoid, negative, overthinking, only for that exact problem to explode later? And suddenly they're acting like they knew it all along. Remember when you predicted an outcome and they laughed at you, mocked your analysis, called you dramatic, only for everything to unfold exactly as you said it would, and they conveniently forgot they ever doubted you. Remember when you questioned something that didn't make sense and they made you feel stupid for asking? Told you to just trust the process, just follow the plan, just stop overthinking, only for you to discover later that your instinct was right, that something was wrong, that you should have trusted yourself. That wasn't coincidence. That wasn't luck. That wasn't you being negative or paranoid or overthinking. That was your intelligence. That was your pattern recognition. That was your analytical mind seeing what they couldn't see or didn't want you to see. But they couldn't acknowledge that, could they? They couldn't validate your intelligence because validating it would mean admitting their own limitations. It would mean sharing power. It would mean treating you as an equal, as someone whose thoughts mattered, whose insights were valuable, whose perspective deserved consideration. And they weren't willing to do that. So instead, they invalidated you. They made you feel crazy for trusting your instincts. They made you feel arrogant for believing your analysis. They made you feel paranoid for questioning inconsistencies. They made you feel stupid for not understanding things that didn't make sense because they weren't supposed to make sense. They were lies. And lies never make sense to an intelligent mind. Your intelligence detected the lies. Your intelligence recognized the manipulation. Your intelligence saw through the performance. And that made you dangerous. That made you a threat. That made you someone who needed to be controlled, dimmed, convinced that they were the smart ones. And you were just confused. And you believed them. You actually believed them for a while. You internalized their narrative. You started questioning your own thoughts before you even finished thinking them. You started second-guessing your instincts. You started running your ideas through their filter before trusting them. You started seeking their approval for your own thoughts as if your thoughts needed external validation to be legitimate. You gave them authority over your mind. And that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted you dependent on their interpretation of reality. They wanted you reliant on their validation of your thoughts. They wanted you convinced that you couldn't trust yourself, that you needed them to help you understand the world, understand people, understand situations, understand yourself. Because as long as you didn't trust your own intelligence, they could control the narrative. They could shape your reality. They could keep you small, manageable, predictable, safe. But intelligence is stubborn. Intelligence doesn't stay buried forever. Intelligence pushes through. Intelligence finds cracks in the lies. Intelligence notices patterns in the manipulation. Intelligence starts asking questions that don't have good answers. Intelligence starts connecting dots that reveal uncomfortable truths. Intelligence starts seeing the whole picture, not just the carefully curated version they wanted you to see. And your intelligence never stopped working. Even when you tried to suppress it, even when you tried to dim it, even when you tried to doubt it, it kept processing, kept analyzing, kept collecting evidence, kept building a case, kept preparing for the moment you would finally be ready to trust it again. And when that moment came, when you finally stopped fighting your own mind and started listening to it, when you finally stopped doubting your intelligence and started honoring it, everything clicked. All the pieces fell into place. All the confusion cleared. All the gaslighting lost its power. And you saw them. You saw the manipulation. You saw the control. You saw the fear. You saw why they needed you dumb. Because your intelligence exposed their mediocrity and they couldn't survive that exposure. So, you stopped performing. You stopped playing the role. You stopped pretending to be less intelligent than you are. You stopped dumbing down your vocabulary. You stopped simplifying your ideas. You stopped asking questions you already knew the answers to. You stopped nodding along to nonsense. You stopped acting confused by things that were crystal clear. You stopped seeking their validation for your own thoughts. You stopped apologizing for being right. You stopped shrinking your mind to fit their limited capacity. You stopped translating your intelligence into language they could digest without feeling threatened. You stopped protecting their egos. You stopped carrying the burden of making them feel smart. You stopped playing dumb. And the moment you stopped, the moment you showed up as your authentic intelligent self, the moment you let your real mind speak without filtration, without apology, without dumbing down, everything changed. They noticed immediately, didn't they? They felt the shift. They sensed the change. They recognized that something was different, that you were different, that the dynamic was different. Suddenly, you weren't asking for their opinion on everything. Suddenly, you weren't confused by concepts you'd clearly understood all along. Suddenly, you weren't impressed by their mediocre insights. Suddenly, you weren't laughing at their weak jokes. Suddenly, you weren't agreeing with their shallow analysis. Suddenly, you were speaking in full complexity. Suddenly, you were using vocabulary they had to look up. Suddenly you were making connections they couldn't follow. Suddenly you were seeing angles they couldn't see. Suddenly you were challenging their narratives. Suddenly you were correcting their mistakes. Suddenly you were revealing depths of understanding they never knew you possessed. Suddenly you were operating on a level they couldn't reach. And suddenly they realized they never really knew you at all. And that realization that terrified them because it meant they'd been wrong about you. It meant they'd underestimated you. It meant they'd misjudged you. It meant the entire relationship was built on a false foundation, on a character you played, on a dumbed-down version they mistook for reality. It meant they never had the power they thought they had. It meant they never had the control they assumed they had. It meant you were always smarter than them, always more aware than them, always more perceptive than them, and you just chose not to show it until now. Until you stopped choosing their comfort over your authenticity, until you stopped protecting them from your intelligence, until you stopped playing small. And now they're faced with a version of you they can't manipulate, can't control, can't predict, can't underestimate, can't handle. So they're reacting. Oh, they're reacting in every predictable way threatened people react when someone they underestimated reveals their true power. They're trying to rewrite history. You've changed. You're different now. You're not the person you used to be. As if the dumbed-down version was the real you and this intelligent version is somehow fake. They're trying to make you doubt yourself. You're overthinking. You're being too analytical. You're making things complicated. As if intelligence is a flaw. As if clarity is a problem. As if understanding complexity is somehow wrong. They're trying to invalidate your intelligence. You think you're so smart now. You think you know everything. You think you're better than everyone. As if recognizing your own intelligence is arrogance. As if trusting your mind is ego. As if refusing to play dumb anymore is superiority. They're trying to isolate you. Nobody else thinks this way. Everyone else agrees with me. You're the only one who has a problem with this. As if consensus equals truth. As if popularity equals correctness.